Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to talk about the circle of fifths / cycle of fourths, depending on which way we're going around. We're going to be dealing with it practically, applying it to actually playing music. We'll have a little bit of theory discussion with it. I mean, you'll definitely come out knowing some theory relating to it as well, but the point of these videos is practical knowledge, so we'll deal with focusing on that and playing. I think I'm going to use the tune Yesterdays with it because it has a large portion of that cycle within it. So first, before we get started, I have a couple things to mention. First of all, I'm going to be starting up Skype lessons or FaceTime or whatever works for people. Again, so if you're interested, you can leave a comment below or hit me up on Facebook or anywhere where you can find me. I'll get you my email address after I get the interest expressed from somebody, just because if I leave out my email, I feel like I'm going to get, spam sent to it. I already had one email address I had to kind of abandon because I had listed it online. So maybe it's paranoid, but I'll let you know if you're interested, I'll get in touch. And secondly, I'd like to thank Ryan, who's my first Patreon supporter. It's really awesome that he decided to help out, and I really appreciate that. If anybody else feels like it, it's not at all, required in any way, but if you would like to help out, it would also be greatly appreciated. I have a lot more time in the summer, so I'm also going to be uploading once a week, either on Tuesdays or Thursdays, most likely. And it's ended up that a lot of my private students have either graduated or moved, so I have a little bit more free time than usual, which is good for this type of thing and trying to get regular with the videos, but not so great financially. This is actually a loaner guitar. I had to sell my L5, which kind of sucked. And someday, hopefully, I'll be able to buy it back. The guy who lent me this is the guy who bought it. And he was, he's very, he's just holding onto the guitar. It's not being played, unfortunately, but, someday, hopefully, I'll be able to get it back from him if I can scrounge up that kind of cash again. So anyway, that's enough about that stuff. Let's talk about the circle of fifths. First thing, definition-wise, is the circle of fifths and cycle of fourths are both the same thing. The circle of fifths is when you go clockwise around the progression. I don't know if it will show clockwise when I do this. It looks clockwise to me, but I don't know if the video will reverse. But just think clockwise around is the circle of fifths. If you go the opposite direction, then it's called the cycle of fourths. This presents some confusion sometimes because cycle and circle can sound very similar. So just think fifths go around clockwise, fourths go around counterclockwise. And just to mention quickly, a fourth and a fifth can be the same thing, even though it seems like two completely different intervals, depending on if we're going up or down. So if we take the note C, go up 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then G is the fifth of C, 5 notes. Now if we go down to G, 1, 2, 3, 4, that's a fourth, but it's enharmonically the same as the fifth. It's called inverting an interval. So a fifth inverted is a fourth, and that's why both directions around the circle kind of create the same effect. I don't know if that's too general, but that's more in the realm of the music theory discussion. And if anybody's interested, I'd be happy to make my own video just purely about theory for this topic, but I just figure there are so many other videos with this. If you'd like a visual aid, just put into Google circle of fifths. There's tons of image results if you'd like a visual reference as we go through this. So music theory, the way it was taught to me, and I think lots and lots of other people, is as an aid to remember key signatures. If you're going clockwise around the circle of fifths, then we're adding one sharp at a time. So if we start on C, that's no sharps or flats. If we go to the next thing on the circle clockwise, it's G, which is 1 sharp, and we just add sharps as we go. So we'd have C, G is 1 sharp, D is 2 sharps, A is 3 sharp, E is 4 sharps, B is 5 sharps. Now let's go the opposite direction before I continue with that 6 sharp part there. If we go counterclockwise, I was gonna say backwards, but counterclockwise around, it's the cycle of fourths. And that's adding 1 flat at a time. So it's C, 1 flat is F major, 2 flats is B flat major, 3 flats is E flat. I mean, you can see this all on an image result. At the bottom is listed as G flat / F sharp, which are the same pitch. The reason for that is because that is 6 sharps and 6 flats, and that's where the cycle and circle meet and convert from either sharps to flats or flats to sharps. So kind of interesting, I think at least. The other thing that is useful with this, so key signature memorization is one reason that people teach and learn this. Another reason is that it, and this is relating more to what we're going to be doing, is that it teaches how dominant chords resolve and what they resolve to. So if we deal with counterclockwise cycle of fourths, let's say we could start on any of them. Let's start on G for now. Whichever one we start on will make a dominant seventh chord. The one following it, going counterclockwise, we can make a major or minor seventh chord. Let's just use triads for now, just major. So I'm going to play G7, and then going to the cycle, the next one in the cycle of fourths, counterclockwise would be C. So G7, C major. That's a 5-1. That's our most basic cadence that we could have. Let's choose another one. Let's do B flat minor. B flat 7, because I should stick to what I said. The first one we choose has to be dominant. And then the one following it, counterclockwise around the cycle, let's make it minor this time. So B flat and then E flat is the next key in the cycle. So B flat 7, E flat minor. And there's another cadence, 5-1. So it's very good at kind of training us to hear what chords resolve to what 5 chords resolve to which 1 chords. And it follows that you could pick any of them going around the cycle of fourths, play the first one as a dominant chord, and the next one as a major or minor chord, and create a 5-1. Now, what if we took all dominant seventh chords? Let's take, it doesn't matter where we start from, let's do G, I guess. So if we do G7, and then C7, and then F, then we get this, G7, C7, and then F. And there's our 1 chord. So what this is, it's called a secondary dominant. It's getting a little bit into the theory side. I love theory, but I'm trying to keep this practical, so just very quickly. Normally this would be a 2-5-1. G would be minor 7, G minor 7, C7, F major 7. Because G is normal, the 2 chord is a minor 7th chord, what a secondary dominant is it's a dominant to lead stumbling over my words here. It's a dominant chord that leads to something that's not the 1 chord, and a secondary dominant usually leads you to the 5 chord. So the cadence would be 5-1, C major, C7 to F7. Sorry, it's very late right now for me. C7 to F major. Let's just do triads. So instead of just this, we're going to play G7. That's the 5 of C. And then C is still dominant because it's the 5 of F, and then the F chord as the 1. We get this very commonly in theory classes and everything, talk quite a bit about this concept, but that's what it is. Now, let's get right to the song, because this was a little bit more theory than I had planned on, but I guess it's important to be thorough. I'll probably timestamp this in case somebody wants to skip right to the tune. So with yesterday's, we have this nice big chunk in the song that follows this progression around with all dominant 7th chords, or mostly dominant 7th chords. So let's just briefly get the first part of the song out of the way, just so we can say we covered all of it. So it starts in D minor, a lot of 2/5s to D minor. So if we have 1 chord, which is D minor 7, and then E minor 7 flat 5, A7, that's 2/5 of D minor, and then, so that was D minor, which is the 1 chord, E minor 7 flat 5, which is 2, A7, which is 5. And now we're just going to kind of do a chord scale here, which is something we talked about a couple of videos ago. And here's the B minor 7 flat 5. This was the diminished thing in between chord inversions. Look at the playlist if you're interested in that. So where we ended up here is B minor 7 flat 5. It's an inversion of it. I'm not playing the root, but I need to do it up there without the root because I don't have a finger for that. I mean, I do, but it's a little awkward. I don't think I can get it reliably. So B minor 7 flat 5, and then E7. That is a 2/5. That's a 2/5 that would normally lead to A minor as the 1 chord. sorry, I was doing minor 6 in that case. B minor 7 flat 5, E7, A minor. In this song, though, it leads to A7 because it's a dominant that's not leading to the 1 chord. It's just creating this chain of chords that go around the cycle of fifths, leading one to the next. So B minor 7 flat 5 leads then to A7. So with the melody, we'd have, and then A7 to D7, and then we have G7 to C7, and then we have C minor 7 to F7, and then to B flat major. Welcome back. Sorry, my phone ran out of batteries as I was recording. Sorry for the interruption here. So let's continue. I think where we left off was dealing with how these chords lead from one to the next. So let's just get right back to where this progression starts. So B minor 7 flat 5 and E7 are going to lead us to A, but A is going to be dominant. So we have, yeah, let's just do the chords. I'll play the melody later. So B minor 7 flat 5, E7, A7. Next one in the cycle is D, D7. G is next, G7. G7 leads us to C, C7. C7 leads us to F, but we're going, instead of just going straight to F, we're going to do a 2-5 instead. So the 2 of F is C, so C minor 7, F7, B flat major 7. It's like we finally landed here at a resolution with a major 7th chord, but then it goes to E flat 7. And then we go back to the 2-5 to D. E minor 7 or flat 5, depending on what you want to play. I like minor 7 there, to A7. And there's the top. So what we get is just this string of dominant chords leading you around the cycle. And it's a really great illustration of how the circle of fifths / cycle of fourths can create progressions for us and make it seem like there's this constant movement and harmony, but still sound very traditional. And even though it's constantly leading you somewhere, our ears kind of know what to expect. So it sounds almost settled, not in a resolution kind of way, in a cadence, but it's a pattern that our ears recognize even if we don't know what to call it. So let's deal with, well, actually, let's get the melody just so we can get that real quick. So if we have B minor 7 flat 5 to E7, and then we have A7 to D7, and then we have G7 to C7, and then C minor, F7, B flat major 7, E flat 7, and then the 2 of D minor, 5 of D minor, and we're back to the top. So it's very, very cool. I love this song. Really great versions of it out there. Wes Montgomery, I'm a big, he's my #1 guy. I don't think I'll ever stop listening to him. If you haven't heard him, check him out. But lots of great recordings of people playing this tune. So listen to a bunch and you can see how they approach this. One thing you can do with this, and one thing that's built in with the melody, and the reason I wanted to play it, is it will give you upper extensions and altered notes to go with these dominant chords. You can kind of alter or change any of these as we go. There's actually one other thing we can do with it, but let's talk about what I just mentioned first before I get ahead of myself. So with the melody, let me do this down the octave so hopefully will be related to chord voicings that all of you are familiar with. So once we get to the B minor 7 flat 5, the melody note is the flat 5 of the chord. And then we have E is the melody note, which is of course the root of E7. Next melody note is F, which is the sharp 5 of A7, so that builds in a nice altered dominant there for us. The next melody note is E, which is the 9th of D7. Melody note is E again, which is the 13th of G7. And then we have D as the melody note, which is the 9th of C. So we have C9 instead of C7. C minor, same melody note, so it's just C minor 9. Same melody note, so over F, it's F13 based on the melody. And then C as the melody note when we get to B flat major 7, which is the 9th, so it's a B flat major 9. I'm going to go up the octave, G over E flat 7, so that's the 9th again, it's E flat 9. And then the melody note is A. We're out of the progression now, but we're back at the 2 of D, E minor 7, and this is the 11th of E minor, of the 2 chord. And if you keep that melody note going, then it's just the root of the 5 chord. And you can alter any of them as well. It's a nice song to do that with if you want to practice your altered dominants. And the upper extensions are built right in, so you can kind of get a chord melody and practice with your upper extensions at the same time. Now, the one last thing I wanted to mention is that you can also add a 2 in front of any of these 5s. During the melody, some work better than others. But for soloing, just like in the bridge to rhythm changes, you might have heard that in each of those dominant chords, which are 2 bars each, for the first bar you can put the 2 of each dominant chord and make it 2/5 instead for each one. So let's look at what that would be if we did that. The first 2 is built into the song. If we just took the 5 chords, it wouldn't start on B, and it would start on E instead. So we'd have E7 for 2 bars, which isn't the way the song is, A7, D7, G7, C7, it wouldn't go to C minor 7, it would go right to F7, and then finally to B flat, and then end with E flat 7. So if we put a 2 in front of, add the 2s back in that belong in the song, and now add extra ones, we would get B minor 7 flat 5, and E7 as written in the song. Then E would become E minor 7 to A7, because that E minor is the 2 of A7. If A7 is 5, then E minor is 2. Then the next chord is D7, so we would play A minor 7 first, and then D7, because A minor is the 2 of D7 if D7 is 5. It would be D minor 7 next, which is the 2 leading to G flat as the 5 chord. So G7 as the 5 chord. So D minor 7, G7, and then G7 would turn to G minor, leading to C7 as the 5 chord. Now, if you do all of them, it'll probably, you can make anything work, I always want to say that, but it might sound a little contrived or maybe not super great if you do all of them, but for practice it is useful because you'll hear which ones work and which ones don't. With the melody, if I go back to that for a second, some lend themselves better to adding the 2 than others. So first one's built in again for B minor 7 flat 5. And then the next one, we're going to go right to the next chord as written without the 2. So we have A7 and then to D7. Now instead of going right to the next chord, we're going to go D minor 7 like we just said. Sorry, let me do the roots here. D minor 7, G7, C7, and then you can mirror what you just played, C minor 7, F7 to the B flat. But try all of them. It's useful, I think, to experiment even if ultimately you won't end up using one long term. It's important to hear that with your own ears, what works and what doesn't. So if you'd like any clarification on any of this, let me know. As for practicing the progression, it's no different than other songs we've talked about. If you can't do this, then the first thing you'd want to do is try to target the guide tones, so shell voicings, thirds and sevenths as you're soloing, and try to land on those. It'll make it sound like you're moving through the chord progression as long as you're targeting those notes. So just very basic if we go through this. Just started playing without the count off, so let me do it with the count off for you. So 1, top of the tune, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's just one chorus. And the reason I wanted to start over to count it off is because what you can do if you, since I'm talking and improvising is not my thing, apparently. You can just strum chords in that time as I'm going through if you'd like to hear how it applies to the chord changes. So I hope this is helpful. If you have any questions, let me know. If you'd like any clarifications on any points, please let me know as well. If you'd like to subscribe, if you're new to the channel, feel free. Like I said, I'll be doing weekly updates or uploads, and it'll be Tuesday or Thursday. I just leave both of them open because I'm not sure if rehearsal comes up on one day or the other or something. If one doesn't work, then I know the other probably will. So I hope this has been useful, and I hope to see you back here again, or know that you're watching here again since I can't see any of you, and I hope you all have a great day or night wherever you are. Take care. Bye-bye.